Let's go, girls. Come on.
From New York City to Los Angeles, Powered Up with Beck and Franklin is giving women of all ages permission to live the life they've always dreamed of. Why live in black and white when you can choose the brilliance of 3D and Technicolor? Each week, Sandra, Beck, and Linda Franklin and their high-powered guests will be here to cheer you on, to share their challenges, their successes, and what they've learned along the way. It's all about women supporting women. The stories and practical tips on sex, beauty, money, and so much more are designed to help you reconnect to the powerful woman you are. Fabulous knows no limits. Now it's time for you to expand your boundaries. Here are Sandra Beck and Linda Franklin.
Man, I feel like a woman.
Hey ladies, this is Sandra Beck and I'm here with Linda Franklin and we've got a great show for you today. We're going to talk about fitness and flexibility with baby boomers because I got to tell you, Linda, when I go to pick up my kids from school, there's this 60-something third grade teacher who walks like a dream. I mean, she moves fluidly. She bends down to pick something up. She's not creaky and rickety, and, you know, she's not too thin. She's not too fat. And I asked her one day what her secret is, and she's like, I do anywhere from 5 minutes to 50 minutes of yoga every day, and she's like, I stretch, and stretching is a big part of what she does, and I swear it's doing something for her.
No, well, flexibility is very important, especially as you get older, because you see the women that don't and the men that don't do that, and they get older much quicker. You know, you can see it in their, you know, the way they walk. You can see it in their, you know, even climbing steps or getting on a bus or walking down subway stairs here in New York. And I don't want to be one of them. So I have probably been doing, oh my God, for over 25 years, I have been really working at that. And I think the earlier you start, the better.
Well, and, you know, it's interesting you talk about that because we have Dr. Rona Brynin with us today, and I would like her to introduce herself before we get into the conversation so people know, you know, who they're listening to and why they should listen to her, because she has been great with my kids and my life, you know, which is one of the reasons I wanted to bring her on today. So, Rona, can you go ahead and introduce yourself to our listeners?
Well, hi, and thanks for having me. I'm a chiropractor, started off with that, and then I went and got a master's in nutrition because I wanted to learn more about the scientific end of why we should eat what we eat. And then I'm also a personal trainer. So I think it all works together. But Linda, like you said, you know, I mean, I started exercising and staying in fit a long time ago, but it's never too late. And being a baby boomer myself, I see many of my friends and people I work with as they're aging. And like you said, Linda, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to walk stiff and lose my balance and fall and have aches and pains. I just don't want to age that way. And we don't have to, is the thing.
Well, and once we start, you know, like sitting, you know, like for me, I've been sitting for 20 years, you know, in front of a computer in the same position. Can we reverse what we've done to our bodies?
Physically?
Yeah.
Like if you... To an extent. No, I mean, it just depends. I mean, it depends on how long it's been there and how long you've been doing that, but you can at least prevent it from getting worse. Maybe you can reverse some of it, but I mean, I've trained some people. I remember training a guy who was in his 70s at the time. He couldn't even bend over halfway to the floor. I mean, he was so stiff, and I said, if you knew that you were going to become this stiff years ago, if you did not stretch on a regular basis, would you have started stretching earlier? And I hate to say his answer was no. But it's like, but you know, we don't realize we don't take care of ourselves. You can't sit in front of a computer for 8 hours and not expect your body is going to shorten. The muscles and ligaments will shorten and get stiff, your joints. And think of it from a chiropractic standpoint. every nerve in your body, every organ in your body is fed from your spine, where all the nerves come out. And when you are stiff and your spine is stiff, all those organs are also not going to function up to par. I mean, flexibility really is key. I think there's 3 parts. There's flexibility, there's strength, and there's balance. And you really have to work all 3.
Well, I'm going to add one to it because I think cardio is very important too.
Oh yeah, so right, exactly. No, cardio is, and there's changing of thoughts on that. We can get into it in a little bit later, but yeah, cardio for sure. But strength, flexibility, and balance are so key. Look at how many people fall.
Yeah.
Because of this. Yeah.
Well, not just because of the snow and ice in New York, right, Linda?
No, they lose their footing. I don't know. I think the brain, after a while, it doesn't give you an accurate picture of where you're standing or curbs or something, and you see a lot of people, tripping and falling. So balance is really, really, really important. So that's why I do it. I go a couple of times a week. I work out with my trainer. I do cardio. I do strength. Right now, I have started to do. I'm working actually with a physical therapist, and I was having lunch with some women last week, and I said, I have to, run because I have to go to my physical therapist. And they said, are you all right? I said, yeah, basically I'm all right, but I want to stay that way. And he gives me insights into my body that I didn't have, and I'm now doing other exercises to sort of counterbalance, if you will, what I've been doing for the last, 50 years, so that I can, I can't change it, but I can stop it from progressing anymore. And there, it's little things like standing on your heels, or just your whole posture, your whole. I don't know. It's like amazing. The more information I hear about my body, the more I say, oh my goodness.
Well, what you said, something like standing on your heels. Can you share with us some of the things that the physical therapist said could help you?
Well, he just gave me. We just had this discussion last week, but he gave me some exercises now that I took to the gym with my trainer, and I'm gonna do them at home, and I'm gonna start. It's just about it's the way the way you distribute your weight, and if you're on your heels, your body is redistributed in a different way than if you're on the balls of your feet. And when I went to him, I didn't have a lot of, I think, flexibility in my upper body, and you don't even realize it, because if you can't, because there's nothing that I couldn't do, but I was compensating, maybe because I didn't have a lot of flexibility in the upper body. I would move, but my hips would take over the job. So you don't even notice that you're compensating until someone points it out to you. So for the last 2 months, I've been doing a lot of exercises, to loosen the upper body so that it will do its job and not have to depend on the hips. So, but he's really, really good. So, I trust. Well, first of all, you really have to trust who you're working with, and this guy is excellent. So, and I've noticed a difference, and so has my trainer, in the way I do my exercises, because it gives you even more upper body strength. That's my story.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, I think that's important when you start with a trainer, or, you've seen this with your physical therapist. When I would train someone, the first thing I did was an assessment. You do want to see, what are we starting with? And like what they found with you, you want to see where your imbalance is. If I'm starting to train someone who sits at a desk all day and I see they have tight hip flexors from sitting, and they're really tight chest muscles from leaning forward, then I want to concentrate stretching those hip flexors, those chest muscles, and strengthening the opposing muscles, in the back of not just your back, but also the back part of your legs and your buttock area. So seeing, if any of you guys are thinking about getting a trainer, make sure they do an assessment. Get a bottom line. What are your weaknesses? What are your, where are you too tight? Where are you too weak? And like you said, if your upper body is weak, you're going to compensate with other areas of your body, and you want balance, really.
So for those of us who sit at a desk all day, and we may or may not have, the money or the ability to get to a trainer. What are some alternatives that we can do? I mean, should we just go out and buy a yoga videotape and, some is better than none? I mean, where do you begin if you don't have, like Linda's lucky and has a, a physical therapist and a great trainer that she loves. If you're like me and live in the sticks, I mean, I have you, but I don't, there's a lot of people that listen here that won't have access to that information. So what can they do from just a personal health standpoint with their flexibility? Just where do we start?
There is so much, Sandra, online nowadays. I mean, you can go Google. I mean, there's yoga videos, there's strength videos, there's stretching. You can buy a book, but there's a lot you can do. Just with just a 5 or 10 pound weight. But the key is doing every part of your body. Even when you're sitting at your desk, moving your feet around, extending your legs, straightening them under your desk, and doing sets of 10 of those, moving your feet around, pumping your leg muscles. There's so much you can do. I read something the other day. It said, what happens under your desk stays under your desk. Moving around, but, getting up, we talked about earlier, getting up and doing some standing stretches and moving your neck, your shoulders, your back, and taking these breaks. But resources, there's so many phone apps now, and there's so much online and videos you can get that there's really so much out there that you can teach yourself or have these online trainers even.
Well, these videos, and they're all great, but I'm a firm believer that even if you don't continue with a trainer or a physical therapist, you should go for at least 2 to 3 times, just so that they can show you the right way to do exercises. Like, I've hurt myself a lot in yoga because, you look around the room and you see a lot of people doing things that my body just doesn't want to do. And there was a time when I I would force myself because I felt, now, of course, I don't do that. But, I think you have to know what your body is capable of doing and not overdo it, because you can really hurt yourself, especially, if you're older. So before you dive in too deep, I really think you need to find someone that you trust. And now, I go to this gym, and it's Equinox. It's a fairly popular gym, but I see a lot of the young trainers working with older people, and I'm looking at that, and I said, that's not right. You have to. Everybody's different. Every age is different. You have to work with who's in front of you, not just under a boilerplate, because you can really, even the trainers can hurt you.
Yeah, and I've seen it, Linda. That's one of the reasons I became a trainer. I was already a chiropractor, which of course you learn how the body works and whatnot, and how to do exercises properly. But I would work out. I remember back in the day I was working out at a gym, and I remember seeing trainers and the way they were training people. Like you said, it's like, look who you have in front of you. I'm like, oh my gosh, I would be so frustrated, and so I decided to become a trainer. But I agree with you. I think at least get a baseline, get someone to show you how to properly work out, because you can hurt yourself. And find a trainer. It's like finding a good dentist or a good doctor. Find a good trainer, because unfortunately, to become a trainer requires only reading a book and taking a test. And some certifications are much better than others. And, finding maybe which certification did they go through, and watch how they train their clients, and see, do you train mostly 20-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 50, what is their specialty? And do they have now they have specialized certifications for older clients. And because exactly, I've seen trainers, hurt people, and then you'll stop working out.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that the person being trained has to bear some responsibility too. And if it hurts, you got to stop. I don't care what the trainer's telling you. But a lot of people, they think they're just going to grit their teeth and move through it. And I'm not just talking about a burn. I'm talking about a ouch.
Right.
That's a bad thing, but I've seen people do that too. So you have to you have to be very aware of your body and what's okay and what's not okay.
Absolutely. No, and then the no pain, no gain thing is just kind of outdated at this point.
Yes.
But right. And just like, if someone comes back and says, wow, I was really, really sore, or my shoulder hurts now, or my neck, you have to listen to that and say, okay, maybe we need to modify how we did that exercise. But back to, like Sandra was saying about resources, having a personal trainer is, some people, let's say, don't want to spend the money or can't. What I would do with some people, say, let me get you on a program. I will train you once or twice. We'll just get you on let's say for a month, get on a routine, make sure you're doing it correctly, and I'll tell you what to do. And then we'll check back in a month, have another session, and we'll switch up your program. So this way you don't have, twice a week, 3 times a week or whatever, which can get expensive. We check in once a month, once every other month, change the program, make sure you're doing it correctly, and that's just another way. Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm doing with my therapist. I was started to go every week, and then it was every 2 weeks. So now I'm going once a month just to check in, and he can, if I'm doing everything correctly, he can, sort of up the ante and give me new stuff to work on.
Right. That's great. Sounds really good. And, I think as we get older, too, the balance part, like I said earlier, is so important. I mean, I'm in my 50s, and I'm already, concerned about this. I've always done a little balance work, but I've upped it because as we age, our balance receptors or proprioceptors in our different joints in our body, they just are not as fine-tuned as they used to be. And you want to maintain them. You don't want to go downhill. And I've just done a lot. I practice a lot of balance exercises, and you can do it on the floor, you can do it standing. There's so many different ways, and I think that is really key because even while you're working out, like we're so set with a lot of these gyms particularly that you sit down while you're lifting a weight, let's say a shoulder press or something. Well, we're not usually sitting when we lift things in real life. I had this client years ago. She was having problems lifting her bag, which she would fly a lot. And she had problems lifting her bag up into the overhead storage, and it really improved. Sitting down and having her lift things is not what she needs. She needs to learn to stand and lift and strengthen her core, her legs, her upper body, and it really was very helpful. And I think doing things, functional exercises, where kind of duplicating how we do things in life is very helpful.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about like all the lifting I do. I lift bags of dog food. I lift bags of chlorine. I carry kids to bed. I don't do any heavy lifting I stack wood. I bring my wood in, for my fire. And I'm thinking all the heavy stuff I do, the grocery lugging, none of that stuff is sitting down.
Yeah. So you want to, standing up as much as possible while you're working out, I think for the most part. It depends on what you're doing. But you know what I mean? It duplicates how you work out. How you live in life, So if you're lifting your kids, you're not sitting there lifting your kid.
Right. No, and one of the things I noticed with my dad, and, it's interesting because I always look to my dad because he's 80 and, where am I going to be, in 40 years? So, I look at him and I look at the changes he made by walking every day. When he was sitting so much, like watching A&E and watching the History Channel, he would be rickety when he got up. And I think it was a combination of like poor muscle tone, and he wasn't moving enough. It's like, like a car, you have to start it, you think of those cold winters, where you put your car in storage, you got to start it up every month and you got to drive it around. If you don't use it, it'll all get clogged up. And I think, in some respects, our body is the same way. But my question is, how does balance relate to flexibility and strength? Because to me, it all kind of goes together. If you don't have good balance, it's probably, if you're healthy and if there's not some medical reason, can weightlifting, can walking, or swimming or things like this help our balance?
Well, there are specific exercises for balance. I mean, like the simple one, standing on one foot, right? You stand on one foot. And like you're looking down, trying to look down at first, but you can look ahead. Standing and practicing, standing up straight, don't slouch. Standing on one foot and just seeing how long you can stand, and then when you can't or you lose your balance, switch legs. And just doing that's a simple way. But then you can up the ante, stand in a doorway, have your hands on both sides, and then close your eyes and try doing it. Because
I just fell over.
Because part of balance is vision. So when you close your eyes, now you're using more of your balance sensors more so, and you will strengthen them. Do you see?
Oh, that's cool. So, and as we age, like my dad, he just had his cataracts done, so he sees much better now. But if balance has to do with your eyesight, when we get older, our eyesight goes.
So you want to rely. So doing this with your eyes open is one way, closing it. But again, don't do this without either have someone near you have a chair.
I almost fell over on the we've got granite countertop. I think I can hit my head.
Have something there. But before you do that, with your eyes open even, then start moving around. Move your arms, move your legs, and see if you can maintain that balance. But that's a great way to build it up. I just recently bought one of those little mini trampolines, and now I'm bouncing on it I try to bounce one leg and then switch, because, again, these are ways to do balance. There's ones you do on the ground, because balance is one of the big reasons why we fall, as we get older.
Oh, Linda, you got to do this. I'm standing in my kitchen. You have to have this visual. So Rona's standing here looking all, smart. And, I'm in my leggings and my top, trying to put one foot up, my hands over with my eyes closed. I'll try not to crack my head on the tile.
If you hear a bang, you'll know what happened.
Exactly. But this is something that we don't need any weights. We don't need any money. We just need to stand somewhere. So this should be an exercise maybe to do before bedtime, or after, when you get up in the morning, somewhere in your day, if you just put a minute into it.
Or let's say you're on the phone talking to your friend. Get on one leg.
All right, Linda, are you on one leg?
Yeah, no, the one leg thing is very important. I've done that at the gym, and I noticed in my new batch of exercises from the therapist that one leg is very important. And you're usually more steady on one leg than you are on the other, so you want to get them sort of that they're equal.
Right.
Yeah. Our bodies are very intricate, but once you start to, but they're very welcome to change. I mean, I've seen 90-year-olds that have exercised maybe for the last 10 years, but your body responds.
Totally adaptive. We were meant to move, and the balancing. I mean, let's say you bend over to pick something up. If you have poor balance, you can fall. And by the way, doing like this balance work, you probably felt in your leg muscles. Your leg muscles are getting a workout as well. And it's fun for, with your kids. You can start with.
Well, I can see the contest with my kids. Exactly. We're going to stand there and see who can stand the longest on one foot.
Exactly. I mean, it was a wake-up call to me, because I've always been active, and I work out and all this. But several years ago, I was actually at a chiropractic education seminar, and I don't know why this guy did this, but at the end he said, everyone get up, and he had us close our eyes, and he wanted to see who can stand on the one leg. There were probably 50 people in the room. Who can stand on the one leg the longest? And the last person, well, I'm so competitive, and I'm sitting there, and I'm getting all shut. I'm like, I can't believe I couldn't make it. And I'm like, I have to start working on this. And I always kind of did, but not on a regular basis. And things have to kind of be done pretty regularly.
Well, and what you're asking us to do regularly is something that, like I have certain routines. Like when I brush my teeth, I always check my eyebrows to make sure there's one not going where it should be. Or I look at my skin, because I have this 10-point checklist. I check my toenails, I check my fingernails, I check my eyebrows, I check my teeth, brushing my teeth, and I check the condition of my skin. I kind of go through this whole thing. Well, it's not that big a deal for me to add, a balance exercise to that and attach it to my toothbrushing, because I've got to brush anyway.
I was just going to say, it's like we're on the same wavelength. I started doing that, brushing my teeth, and on one leg, because when you're doing that, you're moving your upper body while you're balancing on your lower leg. It adds a challenge.
Ooh.
Okay, so I started thinking, again, you want to try to find ways and time where you can interject these little exercises. I'm like, how perfect is that? You're brushing your teeth, and you're doing one leg at a time. Or when I dry my hair, because I'm so ADHD, whatever. I'm drying my hair, and I'm doing one leg, because, again, you're moving. You're doing two things at once.
Yeah, but why not? All right, Linda, when are you going to stand on one leg? I know you do it at the gym, but I want you and Roger to have a competition this week.
Right. I don't think that's going to happen. But yeah, I'm listen, like everything, you do things in a way that you're comfortable with. If you overdo them, they become a drag and monotonous, so you stop. So you've got to everybody's different, and everybody does. You have to do it your way.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do them, and I I really believe in preventive medicine in all areas. So, I mean, this is a necessity. This is not something that's even an option. And, as over 50, it's not an option. I mean, everybody's got choices, of course. We all do. But without doing this, you're not going to. You're going to be a lot better if you do them. So, and a lot happier because you're going to be able to do things that other people can't do.
Right. You know what, Linda? I don't know if you know what amazes me is I was just reading something recently about the baby boomers. Baby boomers are actually less healthy than our parents were when they were our age. We have more chronic diseases, and we're not smoking as much as they did. So they're saying we are in worse health, and I'm like, wow, this should be a wake-up call to us.
Well, yes, but look at the kids. The kids are in worse health sometimes than the adults. So every generation is getting unhealthier. Is it the food? It's the food.
Well, I think it's a lot of things. Yeah, I think food is huge, but also we're not as active, and we have more toxins in our environment. I mean, let's not even get into that, but all the chemicals and everything in our cleaning and I mean, it's just the wireless. I mean, it's on and on. That's another whole show. But yeah, the food and exercise is just the stress levels. Everything's gone off, the charts. But I tell people, how do you see yourself as you age? Like where I teach, there is she's 80-something, I'm not sure what, teacher. She's a full-time professor. She's in her 80s. She's completely gray. She walks around like she was 50, 40. I don't know what no limps, no canes, no nothing. She's sharp as a tack. She's a full-time faculty member. I'm like, that is how I want an age. I hope to make the 80 and be like that. I hear people go, I don't want to live that long because, you're just going to be sick, you have all these health problems. And I'm like, you don't have to age that way. Yeah. And what are you doing today to help, lower your chances of becoming like that, is basically, or increase your chances of being vital.
Yeah, but it's really funny that people, like so many other things in their lives, in our lives, I mean, they don't want to take responsibility for it, and, I'll deal with it when it happens. But, I don't have that philosophy at all. I really believe that, if we take care of ourselves, it's going to pay big dividends.
Well, right, and we were talking about earlier that, they say a good 70 to 75% of the diseases we get are preventable.
Yeah.
And it's mostly lifestyle. We're so brainwashed by the media and doctors that everything is because of age or genetics. I just want to cringe when I hear that. I have students say, oh, I got this because I have heart disease because my parents both have this. Or I got, and I'm like, oh my gosh, did they genetically test you? Did they run genetic tests? Because that's the only way to prove it was genetic. And even if, unfortunately, you carry the genes for certain diseases, you can turn on those genes or turn off those genes through your lifestyle, and that's a whole field of science that is, totally backed by research. So prevention is the key, and I think, you can start at any age, but you gotta do something. But like you said, people would rather take. There was a joke one time I saw. When you order your hamburger and your French fries, you say, "Would you like a statin with that?"
Yeah.
It's like
the portions are so they're just ridiculous too, and people they pay for it, they eat it, and it's just. In New York, people are pretty exercise conscious in the way they look, and I go to Connecticut every weekend, and I would say every third person that I see walking around is really overweight.
Yeah,
I think it's where you live as well, but and if you see fat parents, you're going to see a fat kid, and that breaks my heart. Because the kid hasn't even started out, and he's got a black ball against him.
Yeah, exactly, because they inherited their lifestyles.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I was just telling Rona that a full third of my kids' 5th grade class is what I would say is classified as obese. I mean, it's a full third, not like we were talking about. Like, do you remember, Linda, when you were growing up, there was always like one fat kid in school?
Yeah,
and
probably
everybody
me.
knew that person's name. Huh?
I said, yes, probably me.
No.
Yes,
You know.
I was always, on the chubby Zostic side, and it's not fair to the kid. I mean, because if you're not, if you're even, it starts at such a young age when you start to compare yourself with other people, and get the names thrown at you, and it's there's enough things to worry about, and enough things you have to deal with as a kid. Being fat shouldn't be one of them.
Right. I agree. I mean, I think it's one of those things though that, we're so off track, and and I'm a big planner, me. I like to have a plan. And when you and Rona were talking about, like the things that you do to, make sure you age, I think, once we get, to the landmark baby boomer age of 50, at the barest minimum, we should have, like, I'm thinking about, like, what is my aging plan going to be? Like, what are the things I'm going to commit to that are going to make it possible for me to live the lifestyle I want? And, I'm not 25 anymore. And so, I learned from you guys, and I learned a lot from Rona in changing my eating habits and changing the nutrition for me and my kids. But now, today, I've learned, like, just like these balance exercises and how important it is for me to make my yoga class and not blow it off, things like that are going to make a big difference, because if I'm rickety and broken down and not functioning, life's not going to be good.
No, no, absolutely not. And and you don't wait till you're 50. When the light bulb goes on and you want to take care of you start then. You don't say, well, I'll wait till I'm 50 because that's like the magic age. There's no magic age. The sooner you start, the better off you are. And then I don't know what Rona's opinion of this, but I am a big I would advise every woman in her 40s to go to a doctor and have their hormone levels checked too, because that's a big part of it.
Oh yeah, oh my gosh, being in menopause, and many of my friends are as well. I personally, in the school of bioidentical hormones, but yeah, the hormonal changes.
So am I.
Okay, yeah. So the hormone changes are going to wreak havoc, and I think it's important to, maybe look into that as well. I was just emailing a friend back last night. She's been in menopause a while now, and she's depressed, she's gaining weight, she's got no energy, she's this and that, and I'm like, oh my, and I suggested, working with someone knowledgeable with the bioidentical hormones, and again, it's a fight, because the medical arena and the pharmaceutical companies, they will put out every negative thing about it, but the research, it's not supported what they say by the research, and
no,
but. Yeah.
Again, you have to do your own research, and then you have to see if it makes sense to you. And then again, especially with a doctor, find someone you trust. But even if you don't think that you're ready or you don't have any symptoms, go have it checked anyway, so you have a baseline.
Exactly.
So that they have a baseline when you go back when you are starting to exhibit symptoms.
Right, and maybe, exactly. I agree, and I tell my students too, even in their 20s and 30s, get a yearly blood test. See where your sugar levels are, see what your cholesterol is and whatnot, because you should be keeping track of that. That's like a kind of a window to what's going on inside your body that you may not see.
Yeah.
But you don't want to wait. I every now and then I'll get someone and say, oh my God, I totally changed my diet. I'm like, can I ask you what made you make the changes? And usually 9 times out of 10, it's because either they developed some health problem, let's say diabetes, or someone close to them did. Yeah. It's like, why do we have to get sick to make the changes? You don't.
So Sandra, I expect you to go and get your hormone levels checked.
I am. I learned so much on here. It's like, it's like between my free therapy and my free medical advice, doing these radio shows have been a big part of me changing my lifestyle. But you're right, because I was thinking, like, you guys were talking about menopause, and I'm like, I don't think I'm starting it yet. I don't know how you're starting, but
you'll know.
You'll know.
You'll know.
If you're in your mid-40s, you're perimenopausal. I mean, just physiologically, biologically, you're going to be around in the mid-40s. You're going to start changing a little bit. But everyone always thinks estrogen, progesterone, but there's adrenal hormones, there's thyroid hormones, and they all work together. The weight gain has a lot to do with, your adrenals, your thyroid, and the estrogen, progesterone. There's so much, energy levels, and there's a lot involved. And
sleeping, the whole bit.
Sleeping.
And women are so heroic. They think they have to suffer, and you don't. I mean, if you go in even before you start to exhibit symptoms and know where you stand and know that there is something there for you, even now, even if it's a teeny weeny little dose, it's going to make you feel better.
Exactly. I mean, and they're replacing what they say, physiological levels. It's not synthetic. Bioidentical means their molecules are identical to what we were producing. The ones that you get from your doctor are a one-size-fit-all type thing, and everyone's different, and it's not identical to how the hormones are that our bodies produce. So that's why those hormones get, they increase your risk for a lot of different health problems, whereas the bioidentical has not shown that.
No, they're plant-based.
Right.
They're plant-based.
And by the way, the foods that we eat are laced with hormones. If you're eating kind of animal products that are not organic, you're getting the hormones that were fed to the animals. That's going to also wreak havoc on our systems. Look at girls nowadays that are 8, 9, 10 years old starting their menstrual cycles or getting, breasts, whereas when I was growing up, we were like 14, 15.
Oh, you could see that in the elementary school. I was horrified. They were like, when I went on that field trip, with the fifth graders, and there was always one girl, that developed early in the classroom, she started growing boobs before everybody else. In this classroom, I'm not kidding you, probably a half to a third to a half were developing. And I'm like, you guys are 10, we're not 13, 14, 15 years old anymore.
They're getting, if you milk and meat and, any dairy has all the hormones that were given to the animals. Plus, some of the pesticides. There's just, I'm still waiting for my breasts to develop like they have. But anyway, seriously though, it's gonna wreak havoc because all that estrogen exposure, we don't even know what's going to happen to the breast cancer rates, let's just say. It's just...
And estrogen is bad for men, too, because, when their testosterone levels start to go down or they gain a lot of weight, then it turns into estrogen, which is very bad for the guys, too, because it ends up with, even more fat on their body. So, men have to take care of themselves, too, and I know this show is primarily targeted to women, but who takes care of the men is the women. So I think men ought to have their levels checked, too, because testosterone is just as important to men as estrogen is to women.
Yeah, I agree. Speaking of taking care, this is another problem. You have a spouse that didn't take care of themselves, and then you did, and now they get sick, and you have to take care of them. It becomes a burden not just to your children, but to your spouses. I don't know. I just always remember hearing my mom when I was a kid saying to my dad, I don't want to grow old alone. I don't, all this stuff. And it's like, now they've grown old together. But, it's talking about later in life. And we're in this, I think Americans, we want everything right now. If we don't feel good right now or it doesn't make us happy right now, we're not even interested.
Very much so.
And it's like, I don't know. I'm thinking I feel good now the way I live, but I also am doing it for later. I don't want to grow old and have to be on all these medications and feel horrible.
Yeah.
So.
No, you're doing yourself a favor, so you have to look at it that way. And but again, you got a choice. You do or you don't. And if you don't, then you just live with the consequences like everything else. And for some, there may not even be any consequences. You don't know, but, I'd rather be on the safe side.
That's true. It's because I get that argument. People go, well, I have a grandfather. He's 89. He drinks every day. He smokes. He eats like blah, blah, blah. Fine. But first of all, that's the exception, not the rule. And also, I think older generations could get away with that more so than we can now because we're in a more toxic environment.
Right.
Everything's different now. But that's more the exception, like when like you just said.
Well, but I'm going to weigh in on that one because I get that a lot, and I can tell you that because people always say, well, your kids aren't sick because they have good genes. Well, you're not sick because you have good genes. You're not sick, but your dad's still alive and healthy because he's got good genes or whatever. But living with my dad and living with the age range in my house spans 8 to 80, literally. Mm-hmm. And when I look at what he does and what my sons do in comparison to when I was caring for other children last year, I had some kids sitting in my house because their parents had a medical issue. It was very interesting to me, and I could see right away the lifestyle choices. I would look at my kid and then this other kid, and this kid was used to eating a lot of things that I would never feed my kids in a million years. So, we had to have that, I had that awareness. But, when people look at somebody and go, well, he lived to 80 and, he ate everything he wanted. Well, maybe he did, maybe he didn't, because that's a gross generalization. When I look at my dad and I see, he will get up and he'll choose to go take a few laps in the pool. We have a pool, so he'll swim or, he'll putter around, and he likes to walk the fences and look for holes. I mean, these are things that he does. But those are little choices that don't show up in well, he eats and he smokes and he drinks. Well, he's also, I really believe that we don't know everything everybody did in their lifetime. Mm-hmm. So that's not a fair argument.
Right. Well, and anyway, the science shows that the genetic component is a very small component. It's like 10%, 15, 20% tops. I mean, according to the research, depending on the disease you're talking about. 80%, 70% to 80% is due to your lifestyle choices. So the genetic thing is just got to go.
Yeah.
And like I said, even if you have the genetics, let's say, God forbid, you have a genetics increased risk for some, let's say, breast cancer, which is so common, you can turn off that breast cancer gene by eating certain foods that help turn it off and avoiding foods that turn it on. That's it. I mean, I don't say it's that simple, but it
really is that simple.
But it can be done, and the research is out there and the teachings are out there, but we're not being taught that because our medical system is not for prevention. It's all about treatments, pills, and I hate to say this, but the cancer industry is a major money-making business. We're not taught prevention anywhere. Years ago, I was training a client. She was the president of the American Cancer Society in Orange County, and every year they have a fundraising event. And she would ask me to help it, and I would go. And one year I said, hey, can I have a booth? I'm just so innocent. I'm like, oh, can I have a booth and help people, talk about prevention? She says, no. I was like, okay. We're not taught. Look, when's the last time your doctor taught you, what, you can prevent Alzheimer's, you can prevent cancer, you can prevent heart disease. I can help lower your cholesterol and blood pressure through changes in your diet and lifestyle. We're not taught that because I hate to say it, there's no money in that.
Right, there is no money in it.
And I for sure am not putting down the medical model at all because we need them, I need them. But if you're looking for prevention, I would look elsewhere. And we can, empower ourselves by doing our own reading, whether it's listening to shows. There's so many shows on the internet, on you can Google it. There's, articles, newsletters you can get. There's so much out there you can teach yourself. There's really, an abundance of information. But prevention is the key. And where's our healthcare system going? Who knows? I don't want to be reliant on it. I want to try to avoid it as much as possible.
Right. Well, but I think, we live in a society where, everybody's an expert on something, and then people don't want to be told what to do. Because, and I see it with my friends who are experts in different fields. I've got people who are experts in the law field who don't want to be told, look, when's the last time you ate a tomato? It's funny, but, I think there's this whole thing of you're not going to tell me what to do, and you're not going to get my, we take our freedom thing and we take our right to the pursuit of happiness. It should be the life and pursuit of sickness, because all of these things that we're pursuing for happiness are making us sick.
I agree. Yeah. Well, and then people say, I don't have time. Like I ask my students, who ate breakfast this morning? Good, maybe third, never, didn't. I'm like, how come? I didn't have time. Is it I know, to me, and it's easy for me to say, but to me, what I eat is a priority in my life. You know, you make the time. You can make the time. It doesn't have to take a lot of time. I mean, you've found time to do it, and you're one of the business people I know.
Yeah. Well, I double up. You know, it's like when I go, you know, wherever I go, I double up. Like if I'm going into town, you know, I will go to the gym. I will, you know, get my grocery shopping done. I will do these things. But you're right. Your lifestyle has to be your priority, and that's I think what we're talking about. When your lifestyle isn't your priority, and your priority is new clothes or a fancy car or, you know, looking like the king or queen on your social network. You know, these are the things that I see my friends and peers are making priorities. You can make your kids a priority to your own health detriment. And when you do that, you know, when your lifestyle isn't your priority, you're going so fast. And this is Linda, and I've had many conversations about this on the air because I'm somebody that really needs to slow down. If we're living our life so fast, we're just going to get to the wrong place faster. We're not going to win, you know, and lifestyle is not about winning.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know, and your health is the real prize. You know, feeling good is the real prize. And, you know, I think it's interesting for those of you who are just joining our show or picking this up. We do have a summer health series going on where we are talking about fitness. We're talking about nutrition. We had Polly Monson, a New York City based trainer, talking about what she's doing in Central Park, Central Sweat. And she says she wants everybody to come down to Central Park, pay $5 and do the workout. You know, we can afford $5 for a fancy coffee, but we can't afford $5 for a workout. I mean, our value systems here they're off, Rona.
It's so off. I've seen this with my students. I mean, they're sitting there with the, you know, $200 purses and this fancy cell phone, and they're telling me it's too expensive to buy fruit and vegetables. You know, and I'm like, you know, and they have the new cars and this and that, and I'm sitting there thinking it is a priority choice. It's a choice.
It is absolutely a priority choice. I mean, I look at it even in myself, you know, like yesterday we went out to dinner with my friend Erin. She's going to Thailand, so we thought it would be fun to go to the Thai restaurant, you know, and have food. But my bill was $48, and that was for, you know, 3 vegetable dishes and 2 chicken dishes, you know, so we ate very healthy. But that was like my food budget for the week.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you make these choices and you start eating in season, like that's the other thing. I mean, I know for a while there last year, my girlfriends and I were doing these shakes, and it was hard to find blueberries, raspberries, you know, in January. And so, you know, it's like if you eat seasonally,
right.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, but you've got to make some changes, and I think we as a society don't want to make changes. We don't want to be told what to do. That's why you can't sell prevention. And like anything, these are just thoughts. These are thoughts we've accepted as truths, and we need to change our thinking. So if we're going to have an aging plan, which is what I took away from today's show, like I need to have an aging plan. I need to think about what am I going to do today so that I can have the best possible rest of my life. You know, whether it's 20 years or 10 years or 40 years, if I do these things, I'm going to feel better. I'm going to feel stronger. I'm going to feel more vibrant. So you can't really lose. But it starts with the thinking.
Well, you know, I tell people, when you eat something, when you just sit down and eat something, think about, is it adding to your health, what you're about to eat, or is it taking it away? And again, we don't have to be perfect. We've talked about this. You don't have to eat. I certainly don't eat perfect 100% of the time. But if you eat well 80% of the time, you're doing great. But, you know, again, you know, sometimes I like, you know, I eat a huge salad for lunch and dinner. I want a little something to spice it up a little bit. I went to Trader Joe's, and they have those potato chips with olive oil, which is a healthier oil to cook with than, let's say, vegetable oil. I'm like, okay, this is not great, but it's not terrible. And I just take a little small handful, and I put it next to my plate. It's my treat. You know, so I'm not a saint. You don't have to be a saint, but is what you're eating in the most part. Look at your plate. And now, again, by the way, not that I go by the government standards because I don't, but the latest, you used to be, remember the food guide pyramid?
The pyramid?
The pyramid's gone. Now they have the My Plate. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah, I've seen the My Plate.
The My Plate is better. I like it. Half the plate is a fruit and or a vegetable, plant-based. So every, you know, I tell people, look at your plate. Every meal, even breakfast, look at it. Is half of it a fruit and or a vegetable? And that one little slice of tomato on your burger,
Yeah, it doesn't cut it.
No, it's half your plate. If you're having a bowl of cereal in the morning, if that's your choice, half that bowl should be cut up fruit then, or nuts. Put some nuts in there and whatnot. Every meal, look at it. It should at least be half fruits and vegetables because that's where you're going to get the vitamins, the minerals, the antioxidants, the disease-fighting nutrients. Even your snacks. What is your snack? Every choice, you want to think about it. I mean, we think about brushing our teeth. You can't expect to never take care of your teeth and have healthy teeth as you age.
Right.
What about our body?
Well, and the same thing, like, you mentioned treats, and this is one thing that, again, it becomes a habit, and it's kind of our indulgent lifestyle here in the United States that I see contributing to this problem. Like, when we were growing up, Rona, I remember we were allowed to have soda on Sunday night. Mm-hmm. We were allowed to have one glass, and it was like a juice glass, like a little like Fred and Barney, like Knott's Berry Farm juice cup. It was maybe 4 ounces of soda. That was what we were allowed, and we had pizza. That was our big treat. We were allowed to have pizza, but everything else, my mom cooked or we grew, or and potato chips were such a big deal for us because they were summertime. Mm-hmm. They were like, when we were at the beach or at the lake, we would get a bag of chips, and oh my God, wasn't that fun? Mm-hmm. Well, now what I see in even the prepared lunches at school or the kids' peer groups, when they bring, everybody's got those snack containers, like you go to Costco or Sam's and there's aisles and aisles of snacks. These are things that when we grew up or our parents grew up, these were truly snacks. And where is it written that every meal needs a snack and every meal needs a dessert? Because that's what I'm seeing going into our kids. And I've picked up that habit because I think it started with my generation. I was raised in the 70s and 80s. So I think that this idea that we must have dessert after every meal, and then lunch has a snack, and snack is not an apple, snack is not cut up pear, like my kids get that stuff, and people are like, oh my God, you don't let your kids have anything, and it's like, it's not that I don't let them have anything, but a snack, or you use the word treat, a treat is a treat, and a treat does not mean you do not get a treat every day. No one gets a treat every day. It's like, when they give every kid a ribbon and, the first place means the same as ninth place, something is really wrong here. And it's all about, and I'm going to say this because we've got about 5 minutes left in the show. It's all about saying no. We live in a culture that does not want to say no. Now, I have learned through Linda, and I've learned through therapy and learned through my radio shows, no is not a bad word. Mm-hmm. No, you've had enough. Mm-hmm. So many parents are afraid to tell their kids, and they've got ginormous kids, no, you've had enough food for today. Right. I look at how many calories my kids take in. I kind of keep a running tab of what they've eaten all day. And if they're hungry, they can have an apple, they can have a banana, they can have, a bagel with cream cheese, things like that they can have. But no, you are not sitting down and tucking into a giant bowl of ice cream. We had ice cream 2 days ago. These daily habits come back to, I believe, all about we're not going to deny ourselves anymore. We live in abundance, and so we're stuffing ourselves to death.
Oh, I agree. Well, growing up, we didn't even have ice cream in the house. There was an ice cream place that I still remember the name of it in New York, and we would go to once in a blue moon, and it was this humongous treat. And we all packed into the car, and we drove there and had ice cream. It was a treat.
Right. We did Carvel at the end of our lake. Oh, it was a 10-minute drive, or a 15-minute drive to go to the head of our lake, and there was a Carvel, and, you only had vanilla or chocolate, and maybe you got sprinkles, like that was a bonnet
on a thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. We had Carvel, we had Toot Sweet. I mean, that's it. That's just it. And it starts with the kids. Like, you're a phenomenal model for your kids because they're watching you, what you're eating. Yeah. And what are you modeling? Like my parents modeled for me. I mean, you can't expect your kids not to eat junk when you're eating junk.
Right.
Well,
and that's the thing. Like when I talk to these moms, and I know we only have a couple minutes left, but they're like, "Oh, I'm not going to cut up those vegetables all week. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that." And I'm like, why wouldn't you do it for you? Like for starters, it's like every mom's biggest fear, I will tell you, is dying and leaving her children behind. Like, that's the thing. Like, I want my kids to know me. I want my kids to love me. I want my kids to, I want to be around for my kids. So at the very least, when you think about, like, changing your nutrition in your household and putting all this garbage in yourself or in your kids, at some point you just go, if you want to be around for your kids, then do everything you can to be around for your kids. And instead of eating their garbage food, how about this? Don't buy it for anybody.
Don't have it in the house.
Right. Make a snack a snack. It's like when I got that bag of potato chips and I made some French onion dip, which was, that thing that we grew up as on kids, know. And my kids go bananas. They're so excited because a treat is now a treat.
Right.
And Christmas presents and Hanukkah presents are bought at Christmas and Hanukkah, and birthday presents are bought at birthday time. We don't buy video games throughout the year. We don't buy ice cream throughout the year. Because if you do, what is left for us for a treat?
And that's just it. We're constantly bombarded with all these things, whether it's food or, like you said, gifts and toys and this and that. Nothing feels satisfying anymore.
It can't be, because a gift isn't a gift. A treat's not a treat.
Yeah.
It's
lost its power. I agree with you on that. That's a really good point.
Yeah, because it's just not, it's just not working. Our whole society as a whole is not working. We've got fat kids, we've got sick kids, we've got fat adults, we've got a healthcare crisis largely due to our lifestyle. And I know our government isn't helping, and, we need to have big changes. But you know what? If everybody could just, put the hamburger down for one day, put the bag of chips down, pick up an apple, as hokey dokey as it sounds, people where I come from, Rona, it's not uncommon when you read the obituaries, and I live in the country, granted, and people eat a lot of their own food and they eat local produce, 97 years old, 96 years old, 89 years old. And is it stupid? And we live on a lake and people, walk around and say hello and there's fireworks on 4th of July and it's hokey dokey. But the fact of the matter is we're outliving by decades.
Right, you're enjoying life.
Yeah.
We get once. And again, I just think, I put it out there, how do you want to age? How old do you want to be? Do you want to grow old and grow old in health? And like you said, be around for your kids and grandkids and whatnot. That's, we got to think about that.
Right, we got to have a plan.
We got to think down the line.
That's right. So this is Sandra Beck, and for Linda Franklin and Rona Brynin, I want to thank you for being with us today. If you take nothing away from today's show, I want you to think about, how do you want to age? We talk a lot about how do we want to show up every day when life hands us challenges. We can get up every day and we can face them. We can get up and feel sorry for ourselves. But I'm going to ask you to think about today, insofar as our Summer Powered Up series, is how do you want to age? What does aging look like to you? And if aging is frightening and scary and filled with disease and sickness, well, then maybe you can make some changes today to give yourself the best possible chance of not being that. We all have to age. We're all going to exit this planet someday. How you do it, in most cases, is largely up to you. For Sandra Beck, Linda Franklin, and Rona Brynin, this is Powered Up Talk Radio. We'll see you next week.
We're so glad you joined us for Powered Up with Beck and Franklin. Sandra Beck, Los Angeles-based single mother and technology company owner, knows what it's like to be fit, funny, and fantastic in your 40s. Linda Franklin, a New Yorker with a successful marriage and prominent career, is the brains behind the Real Cougar Woman. She shares her wisdom, grace, and laugh-out-loud opinions based on her stellar successes, both in the financial world and in her personal life. Check out our website, poweredupwithbeckandfranklin.com, and join us next week for another great conversation. We're here every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, right here on Toginet.com.